Hey there, Internet friends, and welcome to Season 2 of That Ultimate Video Game List Show. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey from ThatNerdySite.com, and this is the show where each season, me and a panel of friends try to create the ultimate top 20 video game list with two main bits of criteria. Only one game per franchise, and only one game per console. Joining me on Season 2 for this second round, we have Scott White from Irrational Passions and DualShockers. How you doing, Scott?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. We've got podcast aficionado Brandon Gann. How are you, Brandon?
How's it going, everybody? And to all those listening, today should be Valentine's Day when this episode goes live, so happy Valentine's Day, one and all.
Oh, look at you being already well aware of the calendar more so than I am.
Yeah, I didn't know this was coming out Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Hope everyone enjoyed Sonic.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We've got Jonathan Zyger Landeros right there from My Xbox and Me. How you doing, Zyger?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing okay. And rounding out the squad, we have Aaron Mahler from the Scootcast. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Still doing good. when everybody asks how I'm doing,
week.
It always feels weird being like, yep, I'm good, also good, still good.
That's when you give a different answer every time.
Yeah, I'll work on that. Next time I'll come back in and be like, well, good, and then great, and then actually terrible now. Thank you for asking. If you like what you hear, please remember that you can rate, review, subscribe everywhere you can, and if you're feeling extra generous, you can always support That Nerdy Site over on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. If you're brand new to the series, I would encourage you to check out round 1 from last week first, but for the next few weeks, we will be diving in, taking turns, adding games to our list, with each week centering around one round of 4 submissions. Once a game is added to the list, all other games on that console or in that franchise are out of the running for the future. So, for example, last week, Super Mario Galaxy was submitted, which means we cannot have any other Mario games in the running in the future. It was also submitted for the Wii, so no more Wii games are in the list. So, games can be submitted for any console that they have been released on, though, and remasters may be considered, and games within a collection can be considered, but the collections themselves may not be considered. So, as an example of that, Zyger submitted Halo Reach last week for the Xbox One game because it exists as part of the Master Chief Collection, but he could not have submitted the Master Chief Collection as a whole. Furthermore, each panelist has one veto that they can use when a game is submitted to keep it from the list. So last week, Aaron surprised, I think, all of us when he vetoed Diablo 2. However, if the rest of the panel wants to, they can override the veto. So Brandon and Zyger supported Scott's choice of Diablo 2 and kept it on the list, and Aaron's veto was for naught. So yeah, that
was the first time that happened on the show, right?
Yeah, it was the first time we have had a veto overruled. So breaking the mold already, guys. Once we have all 20 games on our list, the show will then shift into ranking our top 20 with 5 games at a time, and then the number 1 game will be retired into our Hall of Fame and join God of War there, which was our Season 1 winner. And they will be ineligible for future seasons of the show. So as a recap of last week's episode, as I've touched on some of these already, Aaron kicked us off with Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii. Zyger then went into Halo Reach for the Xbox One. Brandon, the one I have not mentioned yet, nominated Final Fantasy VII as the original PlayStation game. And then Scott, as I said, put Diablo 2 out there as the PC option. Aaron attempted to veto it in favor of what his choice would have been, Divinity Sin, right?
Yeah.
But Brandon and Zyger overruled to keep that Diablo 2 on the list. So we're going to dive right now into round 2. The order for round 2 is going to be Zyger, then Brandon, then Scott, and then Aaron. So Zyger, kick us off with round 2. Lord help us.
All right, so I have been struggling with this for the past week, trying to figure out which game I'm going to nominate this week.
Mm-hmm. And then when we started the call, you were like, "Oh crap, I'm the first pick."
Yeah, no, I completely forgot I was picking first. I knew I have to. I knew it was starting early. I forgot I was doing it first this week. But the game I'm going to choose, I'm going to do Kirby Air Ride on the Nintendo GameCube.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Okay, first off, let me explain
tell us,
this choice.
Tell us about Kirby Air Ride.
So, Kirby Air Ride is a spin-off of the normal Kirby franchise where it's actually a kart racer similar to that of Mario Kart. Unlike Mario Kart, though, Kirby uses his copy ability, so as you're racing down tracks, you can suck up enemies and become Sword Kirby or Fire Kirby, whatever Kirby you want. Like, the game on its own, simple, basic concept. What makes it great, though, is the various modes within the game. Like, Kirby Air Ride was Super Smash Bros. Before Super Smash Bros. Became what it is now, because Kirby Air Ride was developed by Sakurai himself. A lot of the aspects in what you see in modern Smash Bros. Actually started out in Kirby Air Ride. There's various game modes where you increase stats, or, the board of accomplishments at the end of Smash, where like, oh, you do this, you unlock this image or this soundtrack. All of that originated in Kirby Air Ride, which a lot of people don't know about because Kirby Air Ride was one of those like underrated games that eventually became one of those Nintendo Gold bestseller titles that they re-released for like $20.
Yeah, this is admittedly a game I don't think I've ever heard of or do not remember. Admittedly, I'm not a big Kirby fan, but I'm looking at the Wikipedia, and it sold over 1.2 million copies worldwide.
Right? So, like, when it initially came out, it flew under the radar for most people. But, like, I picked it up, and it was like, oh, this is a really fun Kirby game. It was also a really fun kart racer. And during the announcements for Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, one of the character reveals was Rosalina and Luma. To start off that intro, it was actually a Mario Kart 8 race on Rainbow Road, and out of nowhere, Kirby shows up on his Warp Star. And at first, I thought it was a Kirby Air Ride 2 sequel. Got real excited. Was not. It was actually just a confirmation for Rosalina and Luma, who show up mid-race. It's like, oh, Rosalina is joining Smash. But like Sakurai did that intentionally because he created Kirby Air Ride as this, like, it was supposed to be the rival to Mario Kart. But I'm sure everyone here knows Mario Kart is crazy popular. Kirby Air Ride, again, flew under the radar for most people, but eventually sold really well. And it was one of the few GameCube games that you can connect multiple GameCubes to and have like 8 racers or 12 racers. A lot of people never use that feature.
Nintendo always innovating with online functionality.
Yeah, but like one of Kirby Air Ride's like best modes is the city mode, where 4 players drop into a map, very BR style, and on the map you have to get power-ups that boost your speed, durability, attack, defense, and on the map you could do various things. You can blow up other players, steal their stats, pick up other carts. It's very much BR before BR was a thing. After, I think the timer, I'm pretty sure you can set the timer, but the default timer is 3 minutes. All players get put into a various minigame, whether it be a race, a battle. No one knows ahead of time because it's all randomized, but based on the stats that you pick up during those 3 minutes and whatever cart you pick up, that will determine how well you do in the minigame. And sometimes you can get like the legendary dragon cart, which is the item in Smash Bros. That you see where you collect the 3 Kirby cart pieces and it turns into this almost instant killer item that, again, originated from Kirby Air Ride. And that's the hardest cart to get in the game because you only have 3 minutes to get it and there's various things you have to do. But if you're able to get that cart, you unlock it in the main game, which you can use in the actual races and Grand Trials. It was also one of the first Kirby games that let you play as both King Dedede and Meta Knight, because those are both unlockable characters. There was like, Kirby Air Ride is like one of those underappreciated gems where it's like, there's like so much you can do in that game. But like, yeah, it was just one of those GameCube games that I remember playing for hours on end.
Okay.
And yeah.
Has anybody else played Kirby's Air Ride?
I
No.
have, yeah.
I have heard of it, but I have not played it.
Was that Aaron?
Yeah, I've
Scott.
Do you have any fond memories that you want to chime in on and add to the pile?
So I didn't have a GameCube when I was a kid, but my best friend in elementary school did, and he had Kirby Air Ride, and it was always the game that made me go, oh, I wish I had one of these because I was a PlayStation kid. Kirby's Air Ride is great. I can't say any more than Zyger did.
It's great.
He pretty much went through the whole game, but yeah, no, Kirby's Air Ride's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember playing Kirby Dreamland stuff growing up, but yeah, this is a game I was unfamiliar with until Zyger has started mentioning it, and I'm doing some like quick slapdash research. So I guess let's talk about, is this the best GameCube game to be considered for the list? Because obviously you have, I think we touched on last week. Well, we've touched on in the past. We've touched on stuff like Wind Waker. You got like Mario Kart Double Dash, or in terms of racers on the GameCube. Trying to think what else was back there. Like I think of stuff like Rogue Squadron, but I'm sure that was multi-platform. And yeah, like I mean, I don't think anybody would make a case for Super Mario Sunshine, and also Super Mario Galaxy has eliminated that from the running anyway. But yeah,
My thought process was other great GameCube games are great. For example, Smash, but I don't believe they're the best in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Kart Double Dash, great game, not the best in the series. Mario Kart 8 is far superior in my opinion.
Yeah.
Wind Waker's on Wii U.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's that is fair enough logic. You also had Luigi's Mansion on the original GameCube. But
That's
I
on the
imagine-
3DS.
Also on
That's
3DS
on
now?
3DS
Oh,
now.
Yeah, there you go. Animal Crossing, which I'm sure people would fight for any of the newer versions, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think New Leaf's the new favorite in that community. I'm not big in Animal Crossing, but everyone talks about New Leaf on 3DS.
Yeah. Remind me, did Metroid Prime ever get re-released on something else?
Wii.
It's
It's
Yeah,
on
I got
Wii
the
in that
Okay.
trilogy collection.
Okay,
With
well,
the
Wii's-
motion controls.
The Wii is out of the running, so this would knock Metroid Prime out.
Did it not get a Wii U release? Like a digital one?
I don't think so. Unless, I mean, like, I
It
guess you
did.
could
I
did
think
it?
it did, actually.
Yeah, like the trilogy pack.
Okay. I remember it being rumored for so long, and then it feels like it's been one of those things that has just never come to fruition, at least on the Switch. So I guess I just kind of link that with everything else.
Yeah,
It's okay, a lot of
on
people
the
forget the
virtual
Wii U.
console of the Wii U.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other like notable GameCube games I'm leaving off? I mean, like,
None come to
I
mind
know
for
there
me.
are others that would be like super multi-platform, but
Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is my second choice. Great game. Love it.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best Fire Emblem, though.
fair. Anything else we want to shout out then on the
Twin
the GameCube?
Snakes. Metal
Twin-
Gear Solid Twin Snakes. Shout out to...
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I remember getting that game before. Like my sister, when she got me a GameCube, it came with, or one of the games she got for me was Twin Snakes, and because I didn't have any like Metal Gear like knowledge, or like I didn't care about Metal Gear at the time, I remember hopping into it and being like, "This is weird," and then like turning it off pretty quickly, and I just have never gone back to it.
a
Okay,
good remake.
well, then any like again, I don't think of this when I think of Kirby games, especially in like the modern era where we're getting all these like cutesy Kirby's Epic Yarn type games and all that stuff. And I grew up in the era of the Dreamland games and what was the Super Nintendo one that was like a whole bunch of Kirby mini games?
Superstar Saga.
There you go,
Yeah.
that one. And that's the one that was on the SNES
Super
Classic,
Nintendo.
right?
Yes, and it
And it got
also, I think,
re-released.
got re-released for Game Boy Advance as well.
Probably.
There's a DS remake of it.
Okay.
Oh, DS, that was it.
Okay. Well.
This would close off F-Zero GX.
Yep. Yeah. That's I went through and I was looking at Games Radar's like top 25 GameCube games. This one does not make the list anywhere in their top 25, but yeah, F-Zero.
Because it's underrated.
F-Zero was
It's
one of the ones
so
I saw
good.
in there.
I have heard a lot of good things. Like, I have a number of friends that praise this game and love it as well. So I have heard that it's really good.
I mean,
And it's one of Sakurai's treasured games. It was one of his favorites to develop for because it was like not Smash, and he could do whatever he wanted, and he took everything from it and put it into Smash. It's so great.
well, Yeah, that's fair. So I guess I'll throw it out to the table if anybody has any other games they want to mention in the vein of this conversation, or if anybody wants to throw down a veto.
The only thing I guess I'll shout out is actually something that has been ported to every other system, and that's, of course, Resident Evil 4. And then you had Resident Evil Remake also come out on the GameCube. So I just want to give those a couple of bits of shout outs, but, I'm fine with Kirby on the list. I'm not going to veto.
Yeah. All right. Then Kirby makes his debut on that Ultimate Video Game List show with Kirby Air Ride. Kirby Air Ride or Kirby's Air Ride?
Kirby Air Ride.
Kirby Air Ride. All right, cool. Well, there we go. Thank you, Zyger, for not disappointing by throwing out a very weird game.
I'm really surprised I've been on the list, not gonna lie.
Very weird, eclectic choice. I look forward to...
It's a bestseller, just saying.
That feels like the 007 Nightfire of this season to me right now, but admittedly, the season is young, and Zyger has like at least 3 more picks to go. So we're going to kick it over to Brandon. Brandon, hit us with your round 2 game.
For me, I'm actually quite surprised it's gotten this late to my second choice, and the PS4 is still on the board, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump on that right now. For my PS4 selection, I'm going to pick my favorite Naughty Dog game by just a hair, and that, of course, is Uncharted 4: A Thief's End.
All right, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Go ahead and kind of make your case for Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4 for me is kind of in 2 parts about why it's great, both on its own and part of a culmination. On its own, it is an excellent game in its own right. It is designed fantastically. The game is absolutely gorgeous to look at from start to credits. It is probably a more... for a more Uncharted-esque game, because there's nothing really like it outside of every other game that's out there, not just on the PS4, but just in games in general. I feel it hits that kind of pulp action-y, the Indiana Jones type movie feel better than any other game. I feel that Uncharted 4 leaves the series in a fantastic place. I'm not necessarily looking for more Uncharted, but it's one of those cases where if there was another Uncharted in the future, I'd be more than happy with it. Uncharted 4 is great in traversal. It is fantastic in its stealth systems. I really feel that it's the best stealth system of the Uncharted franchise. But probably the absolute favorite thing about Uncharted for me are both the payoffs and the detail. And for payoffs, that's mostly in story. So pretty much it is a good story in its own, but it has that extra weight if you've been there since Uncharted 1 and you know about the story of Drake, Elena Fisher, Sully, and the whole cast, and going through all those adventures together. I'd like to posit that Uncharted 4's strongest moments is whenever Elena Fisher is on screen, because most of the time that's not in any combat scenario. Any time that she's on screen, it's during a scene or a conversation that is very impactful from Chapter 4 in the house, when you're just seeing a slice of married life of what Drake and Elena look like post all of those adventures. The secret Easter egg that you get to play during that time is a fantastic moment of bonding, and not to mention the fact that it is a playable Easter egg in its own right. The silent, quiet conversation that they have when they're on the island. So when you're driving the Jeep and you're having to have that heavy conversation that you had on the elevator, and then you're just having to drive through that without no dialogue, having to process that scene and that information. And of course, there is the time when you're at the table when you find all the skeletons. I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to spoil anything more, but you're sitting at that table, and then Elena has this realization of, this is who Nathan Drake is. This is someone who despite as hard as he tried to get out of the dangerous life, to try and really focusing on a family dynamic, she realizes that it's just who he is. He's not going to change. He's found his calling. This is when he's at his happiest, when he's at his most into it and into his life. And of course, when I mentioned the detail about this game, things that I'm pretty sure a large majority of people don't really care for or just glance over and just go by. Things like, again, to re-reference the house, I spent so much time before going downstairs because seeing that house and all the detail and thought that got put into every room to make it feel like a lived-in place. And that's just one area, not to mention the prison that you play in. And of course, having to go out and explore the town in Madagascar, or when you're out going through the ruins in Scotland, and it's phenomenal. And something on the technical front that makes Uncharted absolutely amazed is that something so small and innocuous that most people wouldn't care is, I remember there's a stretch in the very beginning of the game where you're having to play into an orphanage, and when you're going around, you can pick up a collectible. And one of those was like a book or a tablet of some kind. I can't remember exactly what it was. But when you're holding on to it, you have the ability to kind of like twirl your thumbstick, and it just flaps. And the animation to that was so smooth. And it's a memory that will stick with me, even though it was not something that really is important. It doesn't do anything to the story or anything to the gameplay. But I just was in awe of just the finite detail that just goes into every single aspect of this game, that just makes me floored at just how much of a technical masterpiece and achievement, not to mention storytelling, gameplay, and that's why I feel Uncharted 4 is the PS4 nominee for our list.
All right. And in terms of the other Uncharted games, why do you put it above and beyond all of those?
As I touched on a little bit earlier, over the not just the main 3 console entries, but of course things like Golden Abyss on the Vita as well, is because I think it is the most refined of the gameplay. The stealth mechanics, as I touched on a little earlier, at least you can actually tell when you are in danger of being seen, or when you know that you're going to cause an alarm. The level design, I do believe, is much better, especially in the wide open areas. So there's a stretch in the middle of the game when you're driving around in a Jeep and you're having to go to these different locations, and you can entirely skip them. So it's entirely optional. You don't have to go to a couple of those locations, which I found to be fantastic, to give you the option of, if you want to take out this group of enemies, you can, or you can just drive in the other direction and go somewhere else if you want to. I also feel that the dynamics are there in terms of the characters. For example, in said Jeep, when you get out, the conversation will be cut short, and then when you go back to it, the conversation will pick back up. Something that's not possible to be done in the earlier 3 main Uncharteds. I know Uncharted 2 gets a lot of praise and a lot of credit for the train sequence, and Uncharted 3 gets a lot of praise for the gigantic cruise ship. But Uncharted 4, for me, does more of the character interplay a lot better. It does a lot more gameplay-wise. There's less combat than the other 3 games, which I actually feel helps Uncharted as a whole, as opposed to not just 4, but the Uncharted series. There's less combat encounters than there are in the first 3 games. And so Uncharted 4 pretty much takes all the best ideas Naughty Dog had over the first main 3 Uncharteds and implemented not only those to the best versions, but also implemented new things like the grappling hook, the waist-high grass to help further do the stealth sections. A captivating story, fantastic cast from top to bottom, with the additions of Laura Bailey and Troy Baker. It is just a phenomenal game, the best Uncharted in my opinion, and is worthy to be for our PS4 nominee.
All right. Who else has played this one that wants to hop in and chime in?
All right, so I have a embarrassing story about this game. Bought it, only played the multiplayer, sold it.
I'm judging you.
And you only played the multiplayer for like kind of funny streams, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then I sold the
grappling
game
hooks
afterward.
or whatever.
Yeah, that was a fun stream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to play it. I was like, I'll play the other 3 first, and just never got around to it.
Well, the other 3 were PlayStation Plus last month, I think. So hopefully at least pick those up and can hop into them. Okay, so that's a not played it from Zyger. Scott or Aaron?
I played it, but no, I didn't finish it. I put maybe 10 hours into it.
Okay.
It was more Uncharted. I was like, cool. And then I just never went back to finish it.
All right. And Scott?
For me, I've really only played through I've only played through and beaten the first Uncharted, and I played maybe a couple levels of 2, and then I just kind of got bored. The series kind of bores me, so I'm not a huge fan of Uncharted, so I picked up Uncharted 4, and I like 2, I played a couple levels and it's like, okay, I'm done. So it did nothing for me, but the series doesn't do much for me. So
all right,
I have a question about Uncharted 4 real quick.
Yeah,
Does picking Uncharted 4 also include the, I guess, DLC that they had? What was it?
Lost Legacy.
Lost Legacy, that's the one, yeah.
No,
So
that's
Lost
its own.
Legacy was its own spin-off game. So no,
Okay, yeah, I
this
wasn't
would
sure
just
if
be
that was...
like that would be a separate nomination, which would be out of the running for
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if that included it or not.
It started as DLC during development, but then they got ahead of themselves and they got too big for scope, and they said, "Okay, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to make this a whole own separate thing."
Yeah. Well, this is probably the best example so far of how different this cast is from the season 1 cast, because I'm sure Logan and Frank absolutely would have been on Brandon's train, as would I, in terms of loving this game. I know Cameron is not as huge a fan of Naughty Dog. I think he kind of falls in more with the Scott and Aaron camps of it's fine, it's Naughty Dog, it's Uncharted. I personally love this game, and I agree that I think it's the best Uncharted. It's interesting.
Better than Golden Abyss?
Yes, better than Golden Abyss. Though, shout out to that being a solid title on the Vita that did not get nearly as much love as it deserved. But it did get a nod in that attic scene that Brandon referenced earlier. They did not leave it out completely in the lurch. They did not Arkham Origins it. But yeah, I love Uncharted just as a series. I think it's a fun pulp action series, and I think Naughty Dog tells some really great stories and has a lot of fun. And yeah, it's interesting. Just like last season was, kind of seeing where we're at in a Last of Us Part 2 on the PS4 world, because I could very easily see a scenario where that just comes in and basically, everybody's love of that series, it ends up eating the PlayStation 4's lunch, and so it ends up running away with some of these kinds of PS4 offerings. But let's talk about some other notable PS4 games that would be eliminated here with Uncharted 4: Thief's End. You got Spider-Man. You got stuff like Bloodborne, Horizon Zero Dawn. I would say God of War, but of course God of War won last season, so it was already out of the running to begin with. You got Persona 5 would be off the list.
That's
Still on PS3 though.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, it is on PS3.
There's My Name is Mayo, Foxyland 2.
Yes, yeah, Zyger,
Knack.
you are correct.
All of the
Knack.
Knack games.
This will take Knack and Knack 2 out of the running, everybody. Just as a
I might have to veto this.
I was gonna say, if Zyger uses his veto for that,
Knack's a big pick. I mean, I'm in the Knack camp, so I would probably vote for Knack for this.
ooh,
No,
Brandon,
not even
Brandon's
meme-worthy.
Brandon's heart is breaking right now, I'm sure.
Not at all. I mean,
Knack.
if you guys want to veto it, by all means. I mean, it's a bummer, sure, but I'm not going to hold a vendetta against you guys. I'm not going to veto your stuff, so that's fine. Go ahead and veto it if you think legitimately think that there is something you want to put on the PS4 over Uncharted 4.
Yeah. Any other PS4 games people want to shout out or
I just want to
give
point
a nod
out
to
that
here?
because the Xbox One is already taken, this is our last chance to put Kingdom Hearts 3 on the list.
That's true.
But not
Also,
all of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, but
That Kingdom Hearts is a good pick. This also eliminates GTA 5 because both PC and Xbox One.
what about Xbox?
Oh no, wait,
They're on
GTA 5
PS3 and
came out on
Xbox
PS3
PC
and
Xbox.
Xbox 360 are still open.
You're right. Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot it was the last gen game.
But yeah, this does the Aaron brings up a great point with Xbox already out with Halo Reach. This would eliminate a lot of the current gen multi-platform stuff. So your current gen Assassin's Creed games,
Apex,
Yeah, this is the
Apex,
last
yeah.
one, right?
Fortnite.
yeah,
Fortnite's
Switch
on
is still
everything.
available.
We could do mobile.
yeah.
It's on
Fortnite
Switch, too.
and Overwatch are still available on Switch, and yeah, mobile.
I don't know.
Yeah, Destiny 2 would be out of the run. No, I guess. Destiny 2 would be out because
Destiny
PC's
2,
already out.
PC.
None of us would have voted for Destiny 2. It's not a great game.
How dare you? I knew I wasn't going to win with Destiny 2, but I take offense to that.
I loved Destiny 2, but after their latest expansion, I just can't anymore. I
Shadowkeep
don't
was
want to
great.
rebuy Destiny 1. It's not fair.
Shadowkeep was awesome.
Nope. I refuse.
I just... All right.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Never
all
mind.
right.
Doesn't matter.
Any
Yeah, this
any
is off
other
topic. I apologize.
any other PS4 games we want to give a little bit of love to?
Ooh, this would knock out. No. Yeah, this would knock out Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that was one I was looking. Well,
Yeah.
did Dark Souls 3 ever come to Switch?
No, Dark Souls
No.
Remastered came to Switch.
Just the remastered of the original? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would take out Dark Souls 3, which I don't give a shit about because I hate those games so much. They hurt me. Well, Bloodborne hurt
Yeah, I
me.
feel like this eliminates most Souls games besides any that were on PS3 and 360.
Yeah. All right, then I'm gonna throw it to Scott or Brandon. Well, I know Brandon's not gonna veto it.
No, I'm not going to veto.
All right, then Uncharted 4 added to our list as our PlayStation 4 game. Cool. So Scott, then I will throw it to you for your pick.
For my pick, I'm going Game Boy Color.
Okay.
And we're going to. My nomination is for Metal Gear Ghost Babel, or Metal Gear Solid for Game Boy Color.
Metal Gear Solid for Game Boy Color. All right, that is a choice.
That is very much a choice. I need you to explain this choice.
I think for the sake of the conversation, let's tackle why this is the best Metal Gear game.
For me, it's more. This is a fantastic Metal Gear game and Game Boy Color game, and it's so many people talk about like in best Metal Gear and etc. All the other games get so much more mention than this one, and I think this is an incredibly technically impressive Metal Gear game. It's a really good story-wise Metal Gear game, and it's just a lot of fun that I feel really deserves recognition that I think a lot of people don't give it, or just it gets overlooked. So it's just one of those games that I absolutely love it. It replicates and improves on the original's kind of top-down perspective, and this was after Metal Gear was, or the Metal Gear Solid games were starting to really come out and be popular things, because this came out in 2000, in May of 2000, and it's just, I want to give a little love to other great games that aren't always on in the discussions, and I think Metal Gear Ghost Babel, it's its own game. It's not a remake of Metal Gear Solid for Game Boy Color. It's just in the West, it released as Metal Gear Solid. It dropped the subtitle that it was known as other places, which was Metal Gear Ghost Babel. And yeah, it takes place 7 years after the original's game, so kind of in like an alternate timeline. And it's got great art, and they reference it in later series. Like you see images of the characters, and Colonel or Campbell's kind of AI glitchiness references this mission that they go on, and yeah.
All right, yeah, very cool. I mean, I'm certainly no Metal Gear expert, having only really played Metal Gear Solid 5. But yeah, this is one of those. This feels like one of those games of the like Game Boy era that, in part, could have just been something else, but they cashed in on like an existing license. And it like I'm thinking of stuff like Final Fantasy Adventures and Legends that ended up, realistically they're now getting re-released as like Mana games and stuff like that. But no, I'm looking at it. This is not part of mainline Metal Gear canon. It takes place in an alternative continuity set 7 years after the events of the original Metal Gear.
IGN gave it a 10.
Well, I mean,
take what you will from.
We
what
had
you
lower
think
standards back then.
that it was probably Fran Mirabella, I'm guessing. No, probably not. I don't know.
Oh, yo, probably.
Who would have done that one? I don't know. I'll see if I can pull up that review. But yeah, I guess anybody else has anybody else played this one?
No.
I have not played any other Metal Gear game. No Metal Gear experience at all.
Yeah.
I've only played Peace Walker, and I still think Peace Walker is a better game. So
this is also shaping up to be a very interesting list in that like we've got a lot of games that like only one or two people have played. So when we get to ranking everything,
so just like season 1.
yeah, well, season one had like a lot of games that like two or three people had played, and a few games that like all four people had played. I think we've only got maybe one or two where all four have played. And then just as a we're nowhere near there yet, but the reason I'm playing moderator this season and we're having 4 panelists is so that when it does come down to ranking stuff, if we have a 2v2 kind of tie for where something should fall on the list, I will end up playing kind of the like vice president tiebreaker role. And so this is also I'm out of the lurch here in that I've not played 3 of the 7 games that are on this list so far. So I'm like, oh crap. When we get to ranking some of these things, I'm gonna have to figure out where I would put them as well.
All right, so I have a quick question about this pick.
Yeah.
So Game Boy and Game Boy Color, are we combining them as one category, or are they 2 separate categories?
Oh, dang it.
I think you had it listed connected.
Yeah, I think so, because any game that came on Game Boy Color could still be played on an original Game Boy. It just didn't have the color aspect to it.
This one couldn't. There were actually
Was it?
specific Game Boy Color only games. They were clear and had a slightly different cartridge format, but it was like this, and a couple others were Game Boy Color specific.
God damn it, Nintendo! Why you got a Nintendo? Well, yeah, I think for the sake of the list, I believe I had combined Game Boy and Game Boy Color in the same way that like Nintendo 3DS and 2DS and new 3DS and new 2DS. Was there a new 2DS? All of those also fall in the same like camp because they can play pretty much all of the same games. So,
all right, I just want to make sure because
this would take Game Boy off the list as well. The original Game Boy.
Yeah.
Not diving into Game Boy Advance yet. That would still be in the running. So yeah. So for the Metal Gear, you're kind of giving it the like its due as like it's a weird random out there pick that is fun and good. And
I
doesn't
played
get
it and
enough love.
absolutely love it. Like
Yeah.
it is one of my favorite Metal Gears. So it's not just this is kind of a cool game and I want to give it a shot. Like I legit remember and have really good memories of playing through this game on my Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
And
have you played Peace Walker?
Yeah. Well, I've played all the Metal Gears. I played and beaten all the Metal Gears. Like I love them.
But this one takes
it
the
also,
edge.
yeah, and it also goes. I think Peace Walker's had the HD ports and stuff, and Peace Walker gets its due a lot. And I just want to share the love around a bit.
But
All right.
do you think it's better than all the other Game Boy and Game Boy Color games? Like there's Pokemon, Tetris, Wario Land. I'm blanking on a whole bunch of them. But like,
those are all
is
my
it
favorite
better?
Game Boy games.
Like my favorite Pokemon games on DS. It's not on the like Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Those are my favorites. So, and a lot of them are on like Game Boy Advance too.
You and Cameron should bond over that at PAX East.
Oh, can't wait. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a really strong Game Boy Color entry. Game Boy Color entry.
All right, yeah. I mean that we've already kind of started kind of talking about what other Game Boy / Game Boy Color games, and based on last week when like some of you were like, I've never even played the original PlayStation. I didn't have one. I'm like, okay, you probably didn't have a Game Game Boy Color either.
I did. I had a Game
Okay.
Boy Color.
All right.
I played
What
Tarzan.
is
my first gaming thing.
I played Tarzan.
Tarzan on
that.
the Game Boy Color. Nice.
Yeah, that was the only game I owned on the Game Boy Color, and it was bad.
the era of Disney ports.
Yeah, it wasn't
Okay.
good.
That's a sad story to like. I had a Game Boy Color and I only had Tarzan for it. I lament your childhood, Aaron.
I'm gonna be honest. As a child, I
hurts me a
didn't
little
realize that you could switch out the games. So I was because I was a child. I didn't know.
Wow.
So it was
It's
just
fair.
the Tarzan.
You thought it was
machine.
one of those like Tiger Electronics things
Yeah.
where it was like the.
So I had a
the,
Game Boy
like-
Color with Tarzan, and that was it.
All right.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the original Game Boy launch with Tetris as a pack-in title?
I believe
Yes.
so. Yeah.
And he didn't do that for the color?
I don't. I mean, like
No.
the game because the Game Boy Color came out years later, and
I
and
guarantee
it was,
you my color was not new when I got it.
Yeah, there's that
All right.
too. Yeah, probably buying those in that era. Yeah, I think like I'm trying to think of like Game Boy Color games I remember playing when I because I had the purple Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
and it was cool. And like some of the ones I remember playing were like Harvest Moon, like Friends of Mineral Town, and then your Pokemons and stuff like that.
There's Yoshi games.
There's Super Mario Brothers DX. That was, I think,
Yeah,
one
and-
of the
and-
Game Boy Color specific ones.
and like Link's Awakening DX. Yeah, I mean, that's-
DuckTales.
Imagination.
Tetris.
well, I like DuckTales for me was a Nintendo game.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, but yeah, like Tetris. But Tetris is on pretty much every other console that we still have in the running, so you're fine on that. But yeah, all right, that would take out your original Pokemon games. And yeah, okay. I mean, like I don't think I would have too much else in the way of stuff I would have argued for on Game Boy Color. Although I will say it's like I want to say is Dragon Warrior 3. I think I first played on the Game Boy Color and really enjoyed.
That's a
that.
good port.
Yeah.
Like that was a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will throw it out to Zyger, since again we know Brandon's not going to veto anything. Zyger, do you want to veto Metal Gear Ghost Babel for the Game Boy Color?
This is very hard because I want to, but like it's
You
still
want
early
to,
on. I don't know if I
yeah.
want to waste the veto now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, poor Scott. Last week it was
Yeah,
me
right?
going for his game. This week it's Zyger trying to go for his game.
It's fine.
See, like the argument I have is that I don't believe this is the best representation for Game Boy Color, and I also don't believe it's the best representation for Metal Gear as a franchise. Mm-hmm. Like,
But but you do fall. Scott just like hits this magic spot in the list because you fall in the same camp Aaron did last week of you could veto it, and if it stands, Scott would still have the chance to select the next game before you because you were first this week, you will be last next week. So it's a risk that even if you veto it, you might still not have the option to get those games on the list next week.
Well, I don't. Yeah, that is a true fact. Yeah. And again, I don't know if I want to use the veto this early in the season.
That's also fair. Yeah.
Decisions.
Yeah, Scott just Scott ruffling everybody's Scott is the true villain of this season.
No,
everyone thought it was gonna be me.
if I had put Metal Gear Acid for PSP as my pick, that would have made me the villain.
All right, yeah.
Because that is 100% just to get someone to burn a veto.
Oh, I never even thought about playing it like that. That never even
Oh, I
crossed my
absolutely
mind
have.
to like
Just
up-
throw the worst possible game on the list.
yeah, so people burn vetoes.
E.T. on Atari.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're gonna get ET on Atari next.
I had considered it, but I wanted to keep it like, nah.
All right, what are you gonna do, Zyger?
Oh. All right, hold on. Okay, I will let this pass. But I want it on record. Metal Gear Peace Walker, better game, and this game not going to break the top 15. I can already guarantee you that.
I have no idea what the ranking of this list is going to shake out to be at this point because it's going to be a wild one. But so you were leaving this on. So Metal Gear Ghost Babel for the Game Boy Color makes our list as our 7th selection. All right. Very, very fun. So I turn to you, Aaron. Round us out for the end of round 2 with your selection.
All right, I'm looking at my list here of like my potential games of where I want to put them. And honestly, if anybody vetoes any of these, I would be extremely surprised. These are all great games. Not that, never mind, doesn't matter. And I think the one that I'm going to go with, I'm going to go on the PlayStation 3 because you guys reminded me it was on the PlayStation 3. I'm going to go with Persona 5.
All right, real quick, I want to before we lock that in as your pick, I want to throw out there if you wanted to put Divinity: Original Sin out there for the Switch, this might be your best opportunity to do
I
it.
thought about that, but I don't think it's the best game on the Switch, and I don't want to lose out on games that are on Switch.
I appreciate you.
All right.
So Persona 5, PlayStation 3.
Persona 5 for the PlayStation 3. All right. Let's talk about Persona 5 and why it is the Persona choice we want to go with, as well as the PlayStation 3 choice.
It's just so good. I understand that's not an argument, but I love I think the cast of characters in Persona 5 is my favorite cast of characters in just about any video game. And I think that's pushed home with the how much they push you to interact with your friends and really build those relationships and to help you in your dungeons. The dungeons in Persona 5 are the best in any Persona game. They're just, I think, really well designed, and the puzzles are interesting, and I love the sort of thief motif where you've got to sneak around and you can kind of stealth your way through the dungeons if you're not comfortable with a ton of fighting. I just love everything about Persona 5. I don't know.
I mean, Persona 5, solid pick. Obviously, we had Persona 4 Golden as our Vita selection in round 1, or in season 1. And we had a little bit of a debate back then of I kind of fall in the camp of I like the overall story and cast of Persona 4 or Persona 5 better, but I like your core team of cast members in Persona 4 Golden better.
Okay.
So yeah, I like and I mean because Persona 4 wasn't even on a the regular base Persona 4 would not have been a PS3 game, so this more falls into the is this the Persona game for the list
Sure.
kind of conversation. But yeah, I think kind of they got to play with it being a game on a modern gen-ish console, obviously with PS4 as well, but so they weren't shackled with a lot of the limitations that the PS2 games and the Vita had. So they were able to make a much bigger, more robust game that I think is in my opinion the best of the franchise. But I know that is a 6 1/2 dozen in the other kind of argument. Anybody else want to weigh in on Persona?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Would voting for Persona 5 cancel out or disallow any of the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games? Specifically Persona 5 because it dropped the moniker of SMT.
I think Shin Megami exists as its own thing outside of Persona, and Persona Persona has broken away from Shin Megami.
Okay.
Enough so that I will and admittedly I am not the expert on this at all, having not played any of the Shin Megamis outside of the 5 minutes that I've put into Tokyo Mirage sessions at this point, and even that I don't know if that would fall in this, but I think they're disparate enough series at this point, and they've kind of gone different routes.
Yeah,
but I mean, does that sound right to you, Scott?
Gameplay goes.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying they're very different as far as both story and gameplay, completely different design to games entirely. Yeah. So I would absolutely separate them.
Yeah.
Same with all the other spin-offs like Devil Survivor, Digital Devil, things like that.
Works for me. I will defer to you guys as more the experts in that camp. Did you have it? Would you have argued against it in favor of other Shin Megami games, Scott?
Possibly. I think SMT Nocturne, the third one for PS2, is an incredibly strong entry. I think Shin Megami Tensei 4 on 3DS is incredible as well. I would have to give it consideration. I would have to think about it, but with those being separate, I love Persona 5. It was my game of 2017, so nice. I'm not going to poo-poo this at all.
Was that really 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out the same year as Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I would say Persona exists in its own in its own camp with all this like and so this would take out all of the spin-off Personas like your Dancing All Nights, your the fighting Persona games, the Persona Qs. So this would be the Persona representative. But yeah, Shin Megami, the rest of them would still be out there and fair game. So the bigger or potentially bigger question I'll throw to the panel is does this how does this play for people as the PS3 pick? Because the biggest one that this would take out of the running with the coupled with the Uncharted 4 Thief's End pick that we had earlier is Last of Us. After being the like most debated game in season 1, when we got down to the top 5 ranking, this would keep the game from being on the list entirely in season 2, which like I love chaos, so I'm down for it. But but I want to throw it out to anybody else. Brandon, I imagine you would have some stuff to say about Last of Us.
Yeah, it's my top PS3 pick personally on my overall list for behind the curtains kind of thing. Uncharted 4 is my number 3 favorite game of all time. Last of Us is number 4, and of course you have other PS3 games like some of the better Ratchet and Clank games, God of War 3. You've got other standout games as well, but again, because I'm in a no vetoing mood ever, I am all for Persona 5 taking the PS3 spot. I got my Uncharted game on the list, so I'm not going to sit around and argue that The Last of Us should stick around at this point.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Any other notable PS3 games that people want to kind of give a little nod to?
Shout out to Resistance.
Tales of Exillia 1 and 2.
Great
Sorry.
games.
And the entire Tales franchise. There's Gracious F, Vesperia, Symphonia Chronicles.
Yep. Okay. Scott, did you have you had something you were gonna hop in with?
Man, Sly Cooper. We lose out on some. Those are still on PS2.
Yeah.
But I mean, we still have the Sly collection. So
That's also on Vita.
It is also
yeah,
Vita.
that's true. I mean, we'd lose out on Sonic 06, maybe.
I take it back. I take Persona 5 back. Let's put Sonic 06 on the list.
Now that would be a villain burn a.
Oh, good lord, yeah. The game that what like broke Logan at Irrational Passions.
Oh,
basically.
the one where I bought him a copy of Sonic 06 brand new, so he would be. Because he didn't have it, and he was going to be on Video Game Book Club.
Yeah.
So I bought him a copy, and he never played it, and then just like bailed.
Oh,
I was like,
I remember talking to him at RTX. He played it and like hated it so much that he just couldn't continue.
And well, he wasn't on any of the episodes. Like the first episode we recorded, he ended up having something come up last minute, so he couldn't. And then by the time we started recording the second episode, he's like, "Yeah, I'm just not doing this." It's like, you son of a bitch!
Yeah.
I want my $7 back because I had to buy 2 copies of Sonic 06 for that series.
Yeah.
At $7, I could have bought a quarter pounder with cheese meal.
Yep. You.
I feel like you did that to yourself, though.
No, it was fun. Like Jarrett Green, George Cruz, and we had a good time. We were upset that Logan bailed.
Yeah,
it was a sad time.
That's fair.
I think Logan made the right choice.
So with this, I'll also shout out that of kind of the modern era, Xbox 360 would be the only remaining option for a lot of big kind of multi-platform games of the last handful of years, with the current gen out as well as PC out of the running. So like Xbox 360 and Switch-ish are really your only options left for a lot of stuff. So keep that in mind as we move forward into future weeks. But yeah, any other PS3 games we want to give a little love to? Trying to look through the list real quick, and I'm seeing like a lot of multi-platform stuff, but any PS3 specifics. I feel like PlayStation really kind of came into their own this generation in terms of their exclusives. Yeah.
This
All
would
right.
take out. This would take out for our Kingdom Hearts fans. This would take out both the collections. 1.5
Well,
and 2.5.
Yeah, well,
It would.
as I've said, collections themselves can't be
Yeah, but then if you wanted,
nominated.
like I didn't
But
want
yeah,
to do
it-
Divinity on
You would
Switch
still have
'cause there are
PS2 for
better
Kingdom
games on
Hearts.
Switch.
Yeah.
So like if there was a PS, like you couldn't. Not that never mind. But like if there was a better PS2,
so many of
game-
those are, yeah, that's and so many of Kingdom Hearts would be PS2 era, which is still out there in the running. But yeah, it would be like, well, you can get those, or you can get them on. And that's about it, yeah.
PS2,
yeah,
PSP, DS, Game Boy Advance. There's still available opportunities.
I mean, yeah, there's a handful of them out there still.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, 358 Days Over 2 on DS, best choice, obviously, right?
I mean, I was gonna say coded on the mobile, but
I mean,
is
you're,
it
you're,
coded?
You're being
Is it recoded?
facetious,
I don't even know.
but I agree. So
No, I'm legit. 358 Days Over 2 is the best story in Kingdom Hearts, so we don't speak about coded or recoded. Those aren't real games. I refuse.
All right. Well, if nobody has any objections to Persona 5, that'll cut off our PS3 list as well as any other Persona games. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Any last shout-outs for PS3 games people want to give any love to?
Shoutouts to White Knight Chronicles, which a little rough around the edges, but still a really fun RPG. It was like Xenoblade Chronicles before Xenoblade Chronicles existed. It's real good.
Also, I mean, this isn't
Level 5 game.
this is a game. Well, in that reminded me. This is a game I have on the PS3, but I believe I never even cracked it open. Ni no Kuni, since PS4 is already out as well.
oh yeah,
That's true.
It's on Switch, though.
Is it on Switch now?
Yep.
Yes, that's
Okay.
true.
Okay. Well, yeah,
But it's not the best Switch game, let's be real.
that is absolutely fair. So give it a little shout out here. I think that's gonna do it for this week then. Thank you guys. Once again, we are looking at a list of 8 games, none of which were on season 1. So loving how wildly different you guys are from our first season panel. Keeping me on my toes, definitely. So yeah, that's going to do it for episode 2 of our second season here of that Ultimate Video Game List show. Thank you guys for joining me. You can follow Scott at SolidSnake120. Scott, anything you want to shout out? As Zyger touched on at the beginning, this will be the episode that goes live on Valentine's Day.
That was Brandon.
No,
Yeah,
is
hi, how
Brandon?
you doing? Thanks for the insult.
Oh.
I appreciate it.
Sorry, sorry. I'm looking at so many other things. I don't have any kind of indication of who says what, so I'm just guessing based off of voices sometimes. So yes, it will, as Brandon pointed out, this will be the episode going live on Valentine's Day. Anything you want to shout out, Scott?
No, just tune in to, if you're going to PAX East, be sure to stop by our panel, which Mr. Trevor Starkey will be on as well, where we talk about the RPG, the best and most annoying tropes of the RPG genre. Tune in to RPG University over on your podcast services and all the good stuff over on rationalpassions.com. Got lots of good stuff coming. Lots of cool stuff coming over on DualShockers as well, so check them out too. And yeah, for those of you with someone to love today, be nice. And if you're single, that's cool too. Go out and buy yourself a game. Happy Single Awareness Day. Treat yourself.
There you go. Or watch Sonic.
I was going to make that joke.
Yeah. You can follow Brandon at GamesGan. Anything you want to shout out, Brandon?
Much like last week, since I'm not affiliated with anyone or anything, I guess what I'm going to decide to do from this point forward is using this time at the end of every episode to shout out a different group of people or friends or whatnot. Last week, I kind of reiterated for people to continue to check out Irrational Passions and that nerdy site. This week, I want to show some love and some shout outs to our friends over at OK Beast. Go check out those guys. They do some awesome podcasts and stuff, and just other great all around good people. So go check them out as well.
Very cool. You can follow Zyger at Zyger1337. Zyger, what do you want to shout out?
Since this goes out on Friday, a new episode of my Xbox and Me podcast also comes out on Friday, and I'm going to be on that. And last week, I mentioned that I will have a review up on the site for Music Racer. The review got lost, and honestly, the game wasn't good. So we are not going to re-review it, but there will be ideally another review up by Friday as well. So I'll be on that podcast, and I might have a different review up for a game that's hopefully better.
All right, yeah, I've lost enough reviews and write-ups over the years. I always do stuff in Google Docs these days first because that's at least auto-saving most of the time, and then
Right.
once I've got it in Google Docs, I can copy it into a WordPress post or whatever. Future tip for you, Zyger: do your stuff there first. But I'm sorry to hear the game was bad. Well, I'd heard the game was bad after you had talked about it last week, so I was like, oh, I wonder what Zyger thought of it. So
It's a port of a mobile game, which is very obvious, very, very obvious from the moment you start playing.
yeah, I think Blessing talked about it a lot on PS I Love You XOXO last week. I think that's where I had heard the less than stellar reviews on it. So sorry you lost the review, but hopefully it's a learning opportunity for you. And then lastly, you can follow Aaron at Aaron_Mahler. Anything you want to go ahead and plug, Aaron?
Yeah, you can follow Scoot Gang at Scoot Gang Tweets. We have a podcast that came... Oh, God, math. I mean, it came out today as of recording, which is Sunday, Friday. Whatever. It came out a little bit ago.
5 days ago, if you're
Thank
listening
you.
to this
5 days ago.
on the day this podcast went
we
live.
we had Cam Koenig on. It got weird. Please don't judge us.
Nice.
And then there may be something in the works involving a role-playing game podcast eventually. Who knows?
Fun.
So-
Those are all the rage, aren't they, Scott?
Yeah, I saw that Scott was doing RPG University. I was like, how can I steal his idea? And then I stole it.
Nice.
I didn't, though.
You could have just asked to be a guest.
I'd love to be a guest. And also, I didn't steal your idea because it's formatted very differently.
I know. That's fine. And I'd love to have you.
I would love
We'll
to.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah, just those.
All right.
Yeah, just
Very cool.
that.
You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter, and you can follow everything from That Nerdy Site at That Nerdy Site. The thing I will plug is the day this is going live. If all goes according to plan, will be a very exciting cap of a week for That Nerdy Site because it will be the first week we've had a new podcast go live every day, Monday through Friday, because we would have had That Nerdy Site show on Monday, that D Plus show on Tuesday, that Anime Pod, which is our bi-weekly podcast, on Wednesday, that Wannabe Film Class on Thursday, and this show going live today. So we're doing so many podcasts here, you guys. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
I like how you saved the best for last. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I mean, I like that.
I like this being our Friday show. Nice. You get the weekend to enjoy it. So check out all of that stuff over at thatnerdysite.com. Please remember, as always, like, review, rate, subscribe, follow everyone here as well as everyone on That Nerdy Site, and follow the shows everywhere you can. We will be back next week with round 3, which I said before we started recording that like round 3 and round 4 are where we start getting the eclectic games, but with stuff like Metal Gear Ghost Babel, I don't know, and Kirby Air Ride, I don't know how much more eclectic we're gonna dive into.
Just
but
wait.
it's I'm sure you guys aren't going to disappoint. So
I just want to make the case that Metal Gear Ghost Babel is going to be the 007 of this season, not Kirby Air Ride. Kirby Air Ride is great.
I mean, we will see. You do at least have Aaron in your camp for Kirby Air Ride, I believe. So yeah, probably not.
Top 10. I'm with you, Zyger.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Oh no, the alliances are starting. Well, I mean, you can certainly do that, and then Aaron and Zyger, you can like coordinate. So Aaron, you can get Zyger to like veto something that Aaron doesn't like in exchange for that Kirby Air Ride vote.
Yeah, we're playing the game.
Exactly.
Wow.
We're turning this into full-on Survivor, guys. I can't wait.
Man, I'm really wishing I had thrown out Metal Gear Acid now.
Well, we will be back next week for even more eclectic choices in round 3. As always, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.